So,
What's my name?
we've really created a voting system called JeffCoin, and yeah, it's decentralized and on the blockchain. Yeah, I mean, well, Bitcoin is a, let's say, voting is a currency, so we thought it makes a lot of sense to bring these two together, like the decentralized currency and voting. And yeah, so one of the big advantages is that everything is verifiable. It's everything is on the public ledger, so every vote and every vote count is completely trustable and it can always be checked, and it's not a hidden vote. And at the same time, we try to implement anonymous voting as well, but we'll come to that later. Well, the issue we came across and that we discussed a lot was that we need to have some kind of a centralized authority that kind of decides who can vote and that kind of gives out the votes, the voting tokens. And so we discussed a lot on this, and obviously in this context we came up with one person or one entity that's to be trusted the most, which is obviously JeffCoin, Jeff. So we decided so how did we do it? We decided to use the very flexible concept of colored coins, which is actually an umbrella term of kind of creating your own assets on the blockchain and kind of tracking transactions and ins and outs of transactions and kind of assigning them to a certain coin system. Yeah, and colored coins were just the tool for that, which is already working and implemented, and we got an implementation that actually does the job already. So yeah, colored coins in general, yeah, there are different implementations, and all you need is a compatible client that implements your algorithm or your kind of traceable path for the colored coins. Yeah. So, but yeah, we'll go to the next part, which is the anonymity.
So we spent a lot of time on Friday talking about voting and how it works, what things you want in a voting system, and so on. And we put a lot of thought into that, and we have more work to do. But one of the key elements of some voting systems, it depends on the setting, is that your vote is anonymous. And we spent a lot of time thinking about this, how do you make it work, and so on and so forth. And the solution actually is reasonably simple in the form of ZeroCoin. They use a combination of a few things, zero-knowledge proofs, cryptographic accumulators, and through that they managed to have this system whereby you can put coins, you can prove that you put in one coin, which allows you to take one coin out, and therefore you can spend a different coin than the coin that you put in. The coin that you put in can never be spent by, or can be spent by someone else. And so you can have this kind of mixing of coins which allows you to make transactions which can't be identified to the sender. And so using that, it would be possible to build some kind of anonymous voting system. But that's not yet in production. It's due to come around in May. So in the meantime, we wanted something that we could use today. And we settled upon an implementation of ColorCoin, which is called WebCoin X. And it runs entirely in your browser. So you get your own wallet in the browser using a Bitcoin.js library, and then it adds the ColorCoin layer on top of that. So all the transactions are going into testnet, but they could equally be going into the live blockchain. And we forked that, and then we made some modifications so that obviously we will win, because why else would you build a voting system? And then we also added some stuff. We changed some of the terms so that you can choose themes from a drop-down instead of sending to payment addresses and so on. And the code is all on GitHub, so that way you'll feel confident that you could audit the code. Obviously, you're all too lazy, so nobody will. And like I said, we're going to win. So that should be fine. Just don't audit the code too carefully.
Today for voting, that's,
yeah, it's really a proof of concept. It's not something that we would build a real voting platform on top of, although the sort of terms are there. But another thing that we came up with, separately from what we implemented for today, was this idea of peer-to-peer voting. And we had this idea that maybe if you have a mobile client, you could walk around the room, you could exchange credentials with a number of people, and through that, you could start to build a web of trust within the room. And I have this theory that it's possible to do something like that using statistical probabilities. So if the vote was very wide, like when we win with 90% of the vote, it would be very obvious, and you could statistically say, even if 20% of people were cheating in the room, the probability is still very high that the result is correct, but maybe not so high if the votes are very close. And so I have this idea that, and that's maybe something we'll try to develop, this idea that you can do really properly decentralized peer-to-peer voting with no central server, where you don't actually have to trust Jeff. Obviously, we all trust Jeff. So these are some of the things that we want to explore in the future. I think that the basic platforms are there to do real decentralized voting on top of the blockchain, and that's something that we'd like to explore further. So now we come to the most important part. It's time to vote. So I'm just going to explain briefly the process. Step number one is if you, actually hold on 1 second, let me just make sure that I'm up and running. We need to go. Hold on.
So if you're using an iPhone, try to use Chrome on iPhone or another browser. With Safari, we have some problems, unfortunately. You can try, if it works, if it loads the voting page. If not, try another browser on the iPhone.
Yeah, sorry, iPhone users, Internet Explorer users, you're SOL. So if you go to jeffcoin.github.com, anyone who wants to vote, you just have to pull this up in a web browser. And what will happen is you'll create your own wallet. It will ask you for your name. The reason that you have to give us your name is so that we can tell you didn't vote more than one time. And then Jeff is able to look through the list of people and see their keys next to their names, and that way we can verify that everybody should be voting is voting. This is why it's called JeffCoin. Okay, we had some results coming in already. Obviously, we can see the data. We can also vote for you. That's why we built the whole system. So there is some code in there to help you choose the correct answer when it comes to voting. Have I made that point clear enough? I just want it to be clear that when we win and then somebody later audits the code, I want to be clear, like, yes, obviously we were going to win. So we'll give you some time. What we need to do is, if everybody loads that, we have already some keys coming in. We need all the keys to come in. Once we have the list of keys, then we will send you the coins that you can use to vote. And so hopefully someone else is going to take over talking for the next 5 or 10 minutes while we wait for all the coins to percolate through the testnet network. And then we will come back to...
I think that is kind of a... Sorry?
The coins will be sent to you, assuming Jeff decides to give you them based on the name that you told him you were. So, and we have to wait for one Bitcoin confirmation, but that's a testnet, so it should be very fast.
Yeah, and there needs to be kind of a freeze as well for like, people to register. So please all register now, and then at some point we'll just start the voting process.
What should we be seeing? Because I only get a loading. Also just get a loading.
So it's going to take a long time to load. There's a lot of JavaScript files. The internet connection here is slow, and everybody's loading it at the same time. And it's all running on one per person server who exposed themselves to. Yeah, so it might take a little time, but it should load. You should see. I can show you what it should look like. So we have this.
It tells me backend is unhealthy.
What's on that?
Backend is unhealthy.
Okay, so this is what you should see. Obviously, JeffCoin is the only option you can vote for, or certainly the suggested option. We really do want to go to Vegas. It's a great place. And think about it like this. When you're voting for JeffCoin, Vegas, Texas, still the same, right? When you're voting for JeffCoin, you're really voting for Jeff. So if you want to thank Jeff for having put this event on, there's only one person to vote for, and that's JeffCoin.